From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Montana is now one step closer to distributing $300 million in federal money to help support broadband development across the state. I'll have a closer look at what could come next as they seek to bring high-speed internet to all the remaining unserved locations in the state.
It's not a case of the community just turning a blind eye. It's a case of we have a property that's a nuisance property that is not habitable.
An end in sight, what's next for the Colonial Apartment, as the buyer is now on deck to purchase it, and what the plan is to transform it into.
We are in need of another airport parking option here in Billings.
And on this Thanksgiving Day, how a downtown Billings business is working to make finding a parking spot easier as the holiday travel rush reaches feverish levels. Those stories and much more coming up in the next hour. Good morning and welcome back to Montana This Morning on this Thursday, November 27th. I'm Hailey Monaco here with Miller Robson, or should I say the turkey for
gobble, gobble.
Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving,
Happy
Miller.
Thanksgiving, Hailey. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Pretty uneventful in terms of traveling today, except this morning. We do have some issues with some fog. More on that in just a second. Then, of course, as we get into the second half of the holiday weekend, as we get really by tomorrow night, or by tonight through tomorrow into Saturday morning. And that's when we have a chance to see some of that heavier snow come in. Maybe our first impactful snow of the season here in the lower elevations. Now, yesterday, our high got up to 41, right on target where we should be for this time of the season. Our low, pretty seasonal at 26. Top gust yesterday of 21 miles an hour. Saw a little bit of snow yesterday morning, but nothing measurable. But that's going to change as we get into tomorrow. Now, for the month, we're in the hole for the month, but we're still pacing ahead for the year in terms of moisture totals. Now, we talk about the snow, but what about the moisture totals off of this snow? During that stretch Friday through Saturday morning, most of the area, really decent chance we could see at least a quarter of an inch of moisture off of that snow. Now, we're not seeing anything right now. It's off to our west, but believe me, it is a-coming. I mentioned the big story this morning, the fog. You can see in Sydney there where visibility is starting to be impacted. Eastern Montana, northeast corner of the state, already starting to see some of those visibility issues. If you draw like an imaginary line, we'll just say roughly from Roundup to Billings to Sheridan in areas east. These are the areas that will have a chance to see visibility less than a half a mile this morning in pockets of dense fog, if you see that, and some slick roads like bridges and overpasses. So keep that in mind if you're in those areas and you're traveling this morning. From east to west, temperatures in the teens, 20s and 30s. We've got 35 right now here in Billings. We may not get much warmer than we are right now with all that cloud cover. Our highs today, 30s and 40s before we see the cooler air start to come in. And out ahead of that colder air, yeah, it could be impactful snow, especially to our north. We'll tell you all about that as we go along this hour, so stick around.
Yes, all right, Miller. Thank you so much.
Okay, gobble, gobble.
And this Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade is less than a half an hour away. Now the lineup is all set to travel through Manhattan's Upper West Side starting at 6:30 Mountain Time. And people are still lining the streets in New York to watch their favorite balloons take shape. There's a festive feeling in the air in the Big Apple. Helium begins to fill up the giant balloons, delighting kids of all ages ahead of the 99th annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Balloons being blown up, our favorite characters, life-size, massive characters. We love it, don't we?
We just want to make some really beautiful memories with our kiddos, and this is what we wish we would have been able to do as kids, and we're just excited to let them see it. Happy Thanksgiving!
This year's lineup features 34 balloons, including a new K-pop Demon Hunters character and 28 floats, including the first ever appearance from La Boo Boo. You can catch the show again starting at 6:30 on Peacock. And meanwhile in Montana, some major updates may soon be speeding to the rural parts of the state. Federal authorities have approved Montana's plan to distribute $300 million to expand high-speed internet service across the state. Now the question is, when will that work start? MTN's Jonathan Ambarian has the latest on what you can expect.
The federal BEAD program is intended to support infrastructure needed to ensure that every American has access to broadband internet. In order to claim a share of billions of dollars in federal grants, each state needed to put together a final plan on how to use that money. Montana and 17 other states have gotten initial federal approval for theirs.
As I understand it, we were one of the first states to get at least that initial authorization. That took a lot of work, and so we're ahead of the game.
Montana's plan would distribute just over $300 million to 19 service providers, expanding service to around 68,000 locations that are currently unserved or underserved. Montana Department of Administration Director Misty Ann Giles says the state needs to get one more federal agency to sign off before they can begin sending out the money.
Hopefully we'll get that in the next couple weeks. That's what we're seeing in other states, and then we'll be able to push out those grant agreements. Our target is by the end of the year.
While the first big federal broadband investment was focused on installing underground fiber, the Trump administration removed any preference for fiber in BEAD. The majority of Montana's money will be roughly evenly split between fiber and fixed wireless projects. But two satellite companies, Starlink and Amazon, will serve the most new locations. I asked Giles how soon people in these unserved areas could actually receive broadband.
I think it depends on the type of technology. We know the satellite companies simply have to deploy the satellites. That'll be probably a lot faster. Fixed wireless moves obviously faster as well. Then fiber takes a minute to deploy since you're digging trenches underground, and we do have usually a long winter here in Montana. But our goal is to get the money in the company's hands come January, and so each company can get moving as quick as possible to provide service to all of Montanans.
Regardless of the type of service, Giles says providers must have their projects completed within 4 years. Though BEAD was intended to cover everyone, changes in the state mean there are still a few thousand homes and businesses that won't be covered even after these projects are completed. The state is looking to redirect about $16 million in leftover funding from the American Rescue Plan Act to cover some of those gaps. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
Jonathan, thank you. And in a developing story in our nation's capital, 2 National Guard members were shot and critically injured in an ambush attack yesterday, just blocks away from the White House. The Metropolitan Police Department saying the suspect came around the corner, discharging the firearm on National Guard members. Other Guard members quickly reacted and were able to subdue the suspect and bring him into custody. On social media, President Trump said in part, quote, "The animal that shot the 2 National Guardsmen is also severely wounded, but regardless will pay a very steep price." U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said that the president has already asked for 500 additional troops to be deployed to Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, talk of a Ukraine-Russia peace deal may be getting ahead of reality, as Capitol officials say the original 28-point proposal has already been trimmed down. Top Kremlin officials say they still haven't received a formal plan from Washington. One of the biggest sticking points: who controls Ukrainian territory occupied by Russian forces for nearly 4 years. And despite ongoing negotiations, the violence hasn't stopped. Russia launched new strikes overnight, a signal to world leaders that President Vladimir Putin isn't serious about peace. Still, President Trump insists his team is making tremendous progress. Well, this morning in Billings, the end of the Colonial Apartments is in sight. The long-troubled downtown building is expected to be demolished at the end of December as the city and the former owner's estate move toward a deal. For years, the Colonial has been home to repeated crimes draining emergency resources. This is Riverstone Health plans to buy the property for $500,000. But as our Matt Carmack reports, people are still living inside, and they'll soon need to find a place to go.
We all know about the Colonial, the property often being referred to as an infestation of crime and an eyesore.
It is in absolute disrepair. It is not fit for human habitation.
The infamous Colonial now has an end in sight, and that end is likely demolition. But there's still a handful of people taking residence at the property.
So we've been just trying to make sure that we have community resources for anybody who is going to be displaced.
Terry Todd with the Continuum of Care says each tenant will be taken care of before demolition begins.
So it's not a case of the community just turning a blind eye. It's a case of we have a property that's a nuisance property that is not habitable.
The property remains in litigation with the city of Billings over multiple code violations like peeling paint and broken windows. Just this last week, a status hearing was held, and Michelle Ostry, who's representing the late John Scoggy's 2 children, is hoping to seal the deal by the end of the year.
Yeah, it's been difficult. Some people don't want to move out, they want to stay.
But there's a future for the space, as Riverstone Health wants the property, planning to purchase it for $500,000, plus asbestos abatement and demolition fees.
I think our ultimate goal with the property is to create and transform a community issue into a community solution.
John Forte with Riverstone Health says he envisions a new community resource facility after the building is leveled.
The south side is a food desert, and so creating some affordable grocery options and some nutritious options for folks could go a long way to improving resiliency and just the community here for our neighbors.
A bright future for the storied building, just waiting for the courts to close this last chapter on this infamous building.
We're going to support everybody there, whether they were tenants originally or whether they're squatting currently.
We're taking the time and we're going to do it right.
In Billings, Matt Carmack, MTN News.
Mac, thank you for the update. Well, Cowboys and Cowgirls are gearing up to take Las Vegas by storm. But before they hit the NFR arena, there's a new threat looming over the rodeo world, and it has nothing to do with competition. A serious equine outbreak is putting animals and the event itself at risk. Our Scott Breen has the latest in this morning's Montana Ag Report.
Your National Finals Rodeo is still set to unfold starting a week from Thursday down in Las Vegas, but a severe equine virus outbreak is already altering multiple events surrounding the NFR and has the rodeo community overwhelmingly concerned. This is one of the most impactful headlines: postponement of the National Finals breakaway roping, which was set to start Monday. It will not, due to the aggressiveness of the equine herpes virus. Dr. Jamie LaFelt is owner and veterinarian at Montana Equine. Here's what she says on the virus's severity, causing respiratory issues, abortions, and
the neurologic disease is the more critical one. And once those horses develop weakness in the hind end, they have urinary incontinence, they will go down to the point where they're dog sitting, and some will go down all the way to where we can't get them up.
The current outbreak started in Waco, Texas at a barrel racing event during the Women's Pro Rodeo World Finals. It's now spread to multiple states and said to be incredibly contagious.
It's transmitted from respiratory droplets from between horses, as well as on our hands, clothes, buckets.
As of now, the NFR is still on target to open a week from Thursday. It is the sports Super Bowl with world champions crowned. Several Montana and Wyoming contestants are qualified. But if you recall, COVID wasn't even enough to stop the NFR back in 2020. They just moved it to the Texas Rangers baseball stadium in Fort Worth so fans could spread out. That said, events surrounding this NFR continue to be either paused or adjusted. The PRCA and Las Vegas events have updated guidelines, including on-site quarantining of horses once they're admitted to the rodeo grounds, plus testing of equine temperatures twice daily, among other measures. Overall, the concern's not just for competitors, but also stock contractors, as well as any horse owner. Eastern Montana's Brookman Rodeo recently earned two of the sport's most prestigious awards: Bareback Bucking Horse of the Year and the Remuda Award for high-quality livestock. Dave Weifrich admitted to me the outbreak is, quote, really scary, but he's confident about the preventative measures in place. Now, both contractors and NFR qualifiers tell me they don't feel like NFR dates will be paused, but they also added that if even one outbreak surfaces at the NFR, that would be a disaster. Scott Breen, MTN Sports.
Scott, thank you. And new dates were announced yesterday for the breakaway roping finals. It's going to be held December 22nd and 23rd in Fort Worth, Texas. The PRCA and Las Vegas events are continuing to release fluid updates on what's next. Well, still ahead on this Thursday morning, a new approach to finding parking on your way to the airport, now in downtown Billings. How a business is seeking to ease your Thanksgiving travel. The time is now 6:14 and 37 degrees downtown. You're watching Montana This Morning. A look at your money matters after the break.